And we are live, everybody. This is an offshoot of Three Fifths Podcast. I am, as always, your semi-quasi sort of host, Eric Price, and joining us today, we have You Know or You Love Her, the contest, Miss Cece.
Hello.
Colin may or may not be able to join us. He's having some internet issues, so he may pop in and out, and hopefully he will be able to join us in commentary, but we didn't want to start too late so that you guys could actually get, a full episode out of us before we have to go, because it is also late and we do have other things to do. So, hopping right into the episode, Cece, can I first kind of get some of your overall thoughts of the episode before we kind of go scene by scene? How did you feel about the season 1 premiere, just kind of looking back at it now in total?
Well, first of all, of course, I thought it was short. I waited a year for this. Secondly, I thought it was a very good getting all the basic storylines in order for the season. We got Stannis' storyline. We got Jon Snow's. We got Tyrion and Varys. Got Dany's. Only one we didn't get was Bran and Theon Reek, who's, of course, with the Boltons. That's the only thing we didn't get, but it was a pretty good opening episode. We got everybody's okay. We know what we're set for this. Oh yeah, and of course, can't forget the Lannisters.
Yeah. Well, we didn't get any Bran, but for anyone who's been keeping up with kind of the behind-the-scenes stuff, Bran isn't going to appear at all this season. They've already said that they are cutting all of Bran's stuff out just because how the books are kind of interleaved. It would push things way too far ahead. And they have a whole bunch of other stuff to cover, so Bran's is something that they can kind of easily cut out because they've gotten him to a good stopping point. And frankly, a lot of people felt he was dragging down the show anyway, so...
I'm one of them because I'm like, why the hell are you here?
Yes. As a book reader, I will say it is important, but as I've often argued with people about other shows, important and necessary does not mean interesting. Exactly. It just means necessary. Personally, I liked the episode. Like you said, it was a good setup episode. It really got us kind of back into where all the pieces have moved to since we were last in Westeros. Obviously, when we left, Tywin had just died, and Tyrion had just gotten sealed into the box. Varys had just kind of escaped with him. We had just kind of gotten Jon Snow back from the Wildlings. Stannis had just arrived in the north as a kind of the conquering hero at this point. Brienne had just had her fight with the Hound, and Arya had kind of gone, you know what, I'm going to get out of here while I have the chance. And so, aside from also Arya's storyline, which at the end we kind of got the preview to tell us, hey, this is where she's at, but we didn't see her in the episode really. But we kind of got that update of, hey, since you've been gone, meanwhile, back at the ranch.
Exactly. And then they're going to focus on her a little bit more next episode.
Yes. So this episode was The Wars to Come, which you kind of get a sense of very early on. But let's take this in order. First, we get young Cersei and the character Maggie the Frog, the witch in the hut. I know that on my Twitter feed there was a whole bunch of, so Cersei's always been like this. And the answer is yes.
She's been a bitch for the longest.
I mean, I didn't say that.
I did. Been a spoiled little bitch for the longest.
Yes. Though I think that this is also one of the scenes I'm really glad they finally got to, because it gives a much better idea of Cersei's character. I feel like for a while, people have just kind of seen Cersei do terrible things to people, and especially Tyrion, and there's not really been a thread of why she does the things she does, and I feel like this is one of those episodes that starts to show people, no, there's reasons behind Cersei, like this prophecy that, you're going to marry a king, and he's going to have 20 children, but you'll have 3, and gold will be their crowns, and gold will be their shrouds, which, for anyone who doesn't know what they mean by shrouds, it is a suggestion that each of her children is going to get a gold burial shroud. The idea that they're all going to die before her, and now Joffrey has already died. She's married a king. He had somewhere around 20 bastards, and she had 3 children with her brother. Like, these prophecies, either through coincidence or actual foreknowledge, have begun to come true, and you begin to kind of understand why Cersei has had this creeping paranoia, especially as she fears this
The
coming
third.
younger, more beautiful queen.
Hmm. And then also there was the third prophecy we didn't get to hear before they cut away from it.
Yeah. So yeah, so we got that great scene, and obviously we go right into Cersei again, older Cersei on her way to see Tywin's body, and as she gets out of the carriage, she looks directly at Marjorie, who she quite obviously believes is the more beautiful queen coming to take everything she has. In this case, she would probably think Tommen. Obviously, we know that there is another option for a beautiful queen coming to take everything she has. Um, a younger queen who also may have some pet dragons with her when she
Mhm.
shows up. And so it's that interesting concept that you see a lot in shows of when you try to stop the prophecy, you cause it to happen. And that Cersei, in allowing Joffrey to do whatever he wants, may have set up the circumstances for his death, and that by trying to thwart this prophecy, all she's really done is help it come about.
This is basically the example you do not try to twist the hand of fate.
Yeah. So we get to see her and Jamie talk, and she hits Jamie with a few body blows as they go over. Like, Lee's Tyrion killed Dad on purpose. You killed Dad on accident. Like, you talk about these people who are coming to tear us apart. You and Tyrion are the ones who've torn us apart. Um, Jamie really gets the body and face worked on this one, mainly because she's not that wrong. But
Mhm.
I feel like the thing that stood out most to me in this scene is right before they start talking, when they start playing the extremely slow Rains of Castamere. Um, that's the background music for that scene. Is they start this really slow dun 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 dun
Mhm.
dun dun dun. I think that's actually was my Twitter was my tweet at that point was, and who are you, the
The
proud
pride.
one says that I should bow so low.
Only a cat of a different cloak is on the truth I know. So now that that Daddy Lannister is no longer with us, House Lannister, of course, as Cersei alluded to, is in disarray because technically Jamie, since he is in the king's what
Guard, yeah,
guard. I'm saying watch King's guard. He cannot inherit Casterly Rock,
yeah. So right
but
now,
so Tyrion would technically be the Lord of Casterly Rock
except
because
he,
Cersei is a woman, and they did not believe in giving women inheritance back then.
yeah, but he kind of killed Lord Tywin, so he's out. And it's actually a very lightly played scene, but it's actually doesn't happen here. It happens later, but you actually meet um, the brother of Lord Tywin,
Mm-hmm.
um, and he is technically the next male in line for
Yeah.
rule of Casterly Rock, along with his son Lancel, who we also see. And so that's,
Jesus are the seven in this case.
yeah, who's gone off the deep end. But we're jumping a bit ahead of ourselves there. To pull it back some, So now that we've had some discussion of Tyrion and, the terror that he has wrought, we jump to uh, Pentos, where we have the unboxing of the imp, and he and Varys begin to mix it up. And probably one of my favorite really scenes in this episode. Actually, probably my two favorites are probably when Varys and Tyrion are having their back and forth, as Varys tries to sell Tyrion on the Daenerys 2016 campaign, a Khaleesi for you, change you can believe in.
Yep. Because Tyrion, when we see Tyrion, he's basically drunk because, well, he's bad a lot of stuff going on. He just killed his father. He killed the woman he loved, even though she was the stupidest hoe in Westeros.
The worst prostitute ever.
Stupid
Ever.
hoe in Westeros. And Varys, I'm really excited about Varys and Tyrion working together this season. And then I also love how Varys is just talking with Tyrion about getting ready for Dany, because Tyrion's like, good luck finding him. And he said, who said anything about it being him?
Yes. Well, I like the first exchange because the point that they actually finish at is Varys kind of telling him, "Look, man, I'm trying to talk to you about the future," and Tyrion responding, "The future is shit, just like the past," before throwing up a bunch of wine and
Mhm.
then drinking more in true hardcore alcoholic fashion.
Indeed.
Like, let me get this wine back in there. And I feel like it's such a great moment to kind of leave him there with, just because he's clearly still depressed. He's clearly still torn up about what he's done,
Mhm.
but Varys hasn't necessarily given up on him yet, but he's kind of given the last word for the moment, before we jump to, the change we might be able to believe in Marine, and we get the great visual of the Harpy statue falling. Discount Grey Worm going to the prostitutes,
Mhm.
and we get introduced to the Sons of the Harpy. I did have one question. The very, at some points loud and then undertone of sex noises in the background. How much does that voice work pay? Like, do you think they got full day rates, or do they use multiple people, or is it just like two or three? Like, I want to know the logistics on the background noise here.
Well, they could easily go to a porno studio and get a fused vocal voice box and then play it like that. And then, of course, they do have the prostitutes who are an extra, so they probably have them doing those noises on set. So there's that.
Yeah, I mean, do you think they just had him like standing slightly off camera yelling, or like I'm curious about the
They
logistics
recorded it
here.
before the.
Recorded it, yeah,
That's
probably.
how they usually do it. They always record it before the scene and then they play it in the.
Probably, probably. Tragic, really. I would have liked it if they were just standing off scene, like just outside of the camera. Yeah, to
Mhm.
give the actors a real sense of realism as they're going about their work. Because I feel like it really sets the tone for the scene there.
We actually waited had 20 minutes before we even saw a boob. That's a record in Game of Thrones.
That's true. That did take us a while. And they've been showing a whole lot more of like naked dudes, though you haven't gotten any. I know there's been some complaints as there's been no dick shots yet, but I feel like if there's a season, it might be this one because we've had a whole lot of naked men, and so equality may be on the way.
Mm-hmm. I think there was one though earlier. I'm not sure.
Well,
There's a
there was Hodor, but that was also a prosthetic.
okay, never mind.
Yes. Christian Narn. And Hodor won't be showing up this season, so they'll have to strap that thing on
Hodor,
somebody else.
rising Hodor.
So, who was it? Discount Grey Worm gets killed
Mm-hmm.
by the Sons of the Harpy, and Danny basically goes, "Well, we're going to bury him with all of the honors to stick it to him so that they know that I'm serious about this." But apparently, we find out that the Sons of the Harpy have been a problem for a while. They just haven't been killing anybody yet. So they've
Hmm.
kind of, at her domestic terrorists have basically escalated things.
Basically, they're we're the kind of like the Tea Party. We're gonna get back our country, well, cities in this case.
Yeah, look, we want the Marine, a Marine we can believe in. We want look, the founders of Marine intended it to
Yeah.
be this way, and now you've come in and changed things.
Mm-hmm. We're gonna get
So
back our cities.
yes.
And
Also, oh, go
go
ahead.
ahead. I was saying, and also I kind of saw in that scene, Danny, a little bit of her Targaryen was coming out, starting to come out.
Yeah.
When she
Yeah.
said, I want to find them and I want them to pay for this. And I'm like, that Targaryen starting to slip out now.
Yes, we got a little more decisiveness out of Danny, which is always the kind of frustrating thing with her characters, that kind of waffle back and forth, where you're kind of like, no, your ancestors didn't conquer the Seven Kingdoms by going back and forth. They conquered it by killing everything in front of them with dragon fire.
Mm.
And so we kind of see this back and forth of she wants to do what her, forefathers did, but she doesn't want to do it the same way. And
Not the way of Aegon the Conqueror.
yes. And
Mr.
so,
I don't give a shit. I'm burning everything.
yes, everything. So we finish up this scene with Grey Worm and Missandei, and Grey Worm is a liar. He's a lying liar, and we all know it. You know
Mm.
exactly why they're visiting those brothels. It was the same reason you were staring at Missandei when she was taking a bath. Don't lie to us, Grey Worm.
Just because it's not working no more doesn't mean you don't have the urges.
Yes, and that's definitely something they do in the books is talk about the fact that the Unsullied do still frequent brothels and things because even though they don't have the necessary parts, they still like to lay there, have them sing to them, all this kind of stuff. And, they kind of talk about the fact that just because they don't have the parts doesn't mean they don't like to feel like men. And so you kind of get this, somewhat odd seeming moments of, them still wanting to establish relationships and that kind of thing. And so we kind of see that focused on more centrally with Missandei and Grey Worm, which is something that doesn't happen in the books because in the books Missandei is like 8 or 12.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, most of the things you've seen with Missandei, especially the stuff with Grey Worm, doesn't happen at all in the book. She really just translates, and that's pretty much it.
Mm-hmm.
But when they made the character older, they kind of added this other element, which I kind of like as
I
kind
do.
of.
She's not that way. She's not just a background character.
Yeah. So then we move to the north where Jon Snow's beating children, ostensibly teaching him how to wield a sword and shield. I think he's also working out some aggression over the kid killing his girlfriend. Like, you can't tell me that he wasn't working out some frustration beating that kid's shield in during that fight. Like, I mean, I understand you had to, but you did kill my girlfriend, man. You did kill my girlfriend. We also see Sam talking to his wildling, Sir Alistair, still being a dick,
Mm-hmm.
and Sam making promises he knows he can't keep. We actually spend a lot of time moving at the north because we also get to hear Stannis's plan, which I know on Twitter you had some thoughts on.
Oh, Stannis. First of all, Red Woman is similar to having Badu box.
Melisandre wants to be. You know it, John. You've seen this before. We know you like redheads. She wants the D.
We already know. Already know.
Yes. No, Jon Snow. I'm always warm. Feel.
Yep.
Don't do it.
And now he wants Jon Snow to act like Mr. negotiator with the wildlings.
Yes. Yeah, he knows Mance likes him. He also is a northerner, and he's trying to play on John's not wanting the Boltons to take over, especially since the Boltons betrayed his family, as well as the fact that he's sympathetic to the wildlings, and Mance particularly likes him. And so he puts John in this really tough position of, go and convince Mance to bend the knee, and then I'll let the wildlings join my army, and those that live can get land and, rights as citizen in the holds after I take over the country. And like they say, it's not necessarily a very bad deal. It's just that John already knows he's going to have a time and a half trying to convince Mance to go along with this plan because wildlings do not kneel.
And then where's my notes on that? Oh yes, and of course, not only do we have Stannis trying to get with the wildlings, we also have a little bit of cut to Littlefinger and Sansa.
Yep.
Sansa is slowly but surely starting to learn how to play the game, and she has one of the best teachers, which is Little One.
Yes, I'm so happy we have finally gotten here with Sansa and Littlefinger because, again, as one of those terrible, horrible book readers who tries not to spoil things for anybody, I've been saying since the beginning of this, give Sansa time. She is insufferable in the beginning of the books as she is in the show, but over the course of time, she learns. And she's partially insufferable because her parents didn't really teach her anything. And so she wasn't prepared for the game. But it wasn't that she was stupid. It was that no one taught her. Because as soon as Littlefinger starts showing her the ropes, she's clearly quickly beginning to pick up on what it is he's doing and how and why it works. And so I'm very happy that we're finally getting kind of to this point. And I especially liked the touch of the Brienne and Pod scene being cut in, and you getting to see them argue as Brienne feels like she can't do anything right, and Pod is a terrible squire. And then we see that, if she, we realize there's no way she would have ever known, but we see yet another opportunity pass her by as Sansa literally rides past her in a carriage.
Mm-hmm. It's funny how now that the Stark children are kind of getting themselves together now, and Arya's gone across the seas. Sansa is learning from Littlefinger, and of course Jon Snow is getting more traction in the Night's Watch.
Yeah.
Even though the guy who took Sir John Mormont's place is trying his life.
Yeah. Well, he hasn't taken Jorah Mormont's place yet, because that's the discussion Sam and Gilly are having, is that Sir Alistair is kind of the front runner to become the new head of the Night's Watch, but that there's another guy in one of the other towers who's a leading candidate as well. And so depending on whether or not he wins also is going to determine what happens to Sam and Gilly and Gilly's child, as well as the wildlings, because right now Stannis has a big army and can basically kind of do what he wants. The Night's Watch can't really stop him, and they pledge to stay out of the conflicts in the realm. So they kind of just are going along with / ignoring Stannis as much as they can. But once they have a new Lord Captain Commander, they're also probably going to get more pulled into this as Stannis tries to sway whoever's picked to be in control. And we kind of know Sir Alistair's stance at the moment, which is kill every wildling we can.
And of course, Stir, the king beyond the wall, he's basically, when Jon Snow goes to talk to him, he basically says, if I agree to go with Stannis and everything, I'm basically throwing everything I believe in, that the wildlings believe in, and that is the fact that we do not kneel.
Yeah.
we have, and he said one of the things I wanted my freedom to do what I wanted to do. I'm not trying. He's not trying to be Stannis's lapdog or anybody else who's over the wall. He's trying to be who he is.
Yeah. All I ever wanted was the freedom to make my own mistakes. And like, which is great. Like, but we jumped ahead a little bit. We go back to King's Landing before this. We see Tommen and Marjorie, and Tommen clearly wants them cheeks. Like he's staring hard, but like he's what 15 now, sit like 14 to 16. Look, he's got Marjorie prancing around in front of him. He knows what's up. Tywin managed to give him a quick birds and the bees talk before Tyrion killed him, which I'm sad we didn't get more of. If I could have any extended scene, it would be Tywin Lannister explains to you the birds and the bees, because that has to be the greatest discussion ever. Is
hilarious.
We also see Loras pretending that he's sad that Cersei's dad died and that he in any way wants them cheeks, because we know the cheeks he's looking for. And so he's kind of stuttering and mumbling out how great Tywin was while Cersei ignores him. And then we get to see what is actually kind of the more interesting part, which is cousin Lancel. I want to make sure on his dad's name, because we also see Sir Kevin. Kevin Lannister is Tywin's younger brother.
Yes.
Who is currently in line to be basically the heir to Casterly Rock as the second son, with Jaime being out of the running because he's still in the Kingsguard. Cersei being a woman and married to House Baratheon can't really inherit, not to mention she's pledged to Renly to join House Tyrell anyway. So, not Renly. Loras, I'm sorry.
I was about to say, wait.
Yeah, no, Renly's dead. Renly's dead. She's pledged to Loras, Renly's former lover. And so she's completely out of the running because she's not really because she's supposed to be out the family again, and she's a woman, so she's not really in line to inherit. And so Tyrion, Tywin wasn't going to really let him inherit anyway, but any chance he had kind of died when he shot his dad in the stomach. So Sir Kevin is kind of the main guy in line, and his eldest son is Lancel, who is currently running around in sackcloth because he found religion.
He's like, I don't left my sinning ways, incestuous ways. I done found the Lord of the Seven.
Yes,
So
I led you into temptation. I doubt you've ever led anyone anywhere. Oh, I don't know how you can't love Cersei and her scenes this episode. Like, all she does is just shade and flame, and it's wonderful. I really appreciated her work this episode, but we see also the beginnings of some problems for Cersei, because Lancel comes to her to ask her forgiveness for the incest, for getting Robert Baratheon drunk, that he wants to pray for Tywin's soul. He's clearly really bought into the religion of the Seven, and apparently is not the only one, as the church begins to rise in power, which will be an interesting dynamic coming up. So we see that, and then we jump again from from Lancel to Loras in bed with the prostitute who we saw in the beginning of the last season, season 4, episode 1, with oh my goodness, I'm completely blanking out on his name right now. The Red Viper.
The Prince.
Yes, Oberyn. Prince Oberyn, who he had told Prince Oberyn, I'm expensive, I'm not for sale. And Oberyn told him, bullshit, you work for Littlefinger, you're for sale.
Yes.
And now we see him yet again in bed, this time with Renly, um, basically discussing how a birthmark looks like Dorne, which is a great way to remind everybody, hey, there's still this country. It's named Dorne. There are people there. We're going to show it to you some point. And I really like that they kind of worked in that reference to kind of remind you, hey, you know, this place still exists and it's really important because Myrcella's there, Cersei's oldest daughter.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Which,
oldest child and her only daughter.
which we'll get into more in the later.
Yeah.
Now we go back across this narrow sea,
Yeah.
and we go to Danny.
So
Ba-
we go to Pentos first.
Yes, Penthouse.
And the second set of scenes with Varys and Tyrion,
Mhm.
where Varys makes his really solid pitch that he wants Tyrion to be a speechwriter. Daenerys 2016, hop aboard the Khaleesi train. Look, we want you to do speeches. We want you to do interviews. We want you to hit the media blitz, the campaign trail. Like, we think it could really turn into like a cabinet position, maybe chief of staff. Like, come on, man, you know, join the team. And Tyrion doesn't seem to be buying it. Like, he compromises, basically, you know. The politics that Danny isn't willing to accept. Look, I want to stay here and drink myself to death. You want me to travel to Marine. Can I try to drink myself to death on the way to Marine? That's compromise, children.
Mm-hmm. He's like, sure, you can drink, but make sure you do what you're supposed to do first.
Yes. And so then we go to Marine and Danny once again with Dirtbag Dario.
Ooh, she's not screwing.
Yeah.
But anyway, he basically tells her, you know, it's all well and good you getting, you know, trying to do with these soldiers and the Unsullied, but hell, you got 3 dragons. Why you ain't using them? Like your ancestors before you, because that's how they won Westeros. They had 3 freaking dragons.
Yes. And I mean, the other part is that's how she got her army of Unsullied. That's how she got out of the House of the Undying. Like, you got this stuff by using your dragons. Like, that's how you got where you are right now. And so that she's kind of moved away from them because she's having trouble controlling them. And this is another part that they haven't gotten into a lot in the show, but in the books, they keep hammering this point of the dragon has 3 heads.
Mm-hmm.
And that when Aegon conquered, it was Aegon and his 2 sister wives that did the conquering. He didn't control all 3 dragons, but Danny is trying to. And it made it like she said, dragons aren't slaves. Like, you can't just order them around. They have minds of their own, and they're not just going to go along with whatever you want them to do. And we not only see that, but we also see Dario talk to her about the fighting pits, where he's like, look, I was in these fighting pits. My mother was a prostitute. She sold me into slavery. I was a pit fighter. It's how I learned how to be so good at combat. I was so good. I won my freedom. And then I joined up with the Second Sons Mercenary Company. That's how I got where I am today. Fighting pits are basically the college football of Essos. Like,
well, not just that, they're also the kind of the I pulled myself by my bootstraps.
Yeah, look, I worked hard. I played football. It got me into college, which introduced me to some people. It's how I got my first job. And now look at me. I'm a successful CEO and a world leader. And it's all thanks to football. So quit doing this concussion investigation, Danny, and let me live. It's provided me a great opportunity. So what if it's kind of blood sport?
Exactly.
And so Dario tries to make the pitch, but I'm not sure Danny's going to change that plank or not in her campaign. But she's kind of starting to get a better idea of the real politics on here, like why people would want the pit fights to be opened up. Because if you're poor in Marine
Give you money.
and all the skill you have is your ability to kill stuff, this is your chance to get out. And yes, you might die, but if I don't die, then I have a chance to become rich and famous and eventually, kind of the master of my own destiny. And so
I can
she,
starve to death.
yeah,
I find a bit.
exactly. And so, and I mean, I think it's also, I think it was Rod on the Black Guy Who Tips who kind of tweeted out that, she can't talk about a cultural appropriation. She wasn't always Khaleesi. Like when it was convenient, you were all for taking on another culture. I
Mm-hmm.
would point out part of why Khal Drogo is dead is because she didn't buy into the culture she appropriated. You went ahead and became Khaleesi, but she didn't actually buy into the culture because she tried to make him, you know, get healing from this witch, which is ultimately what killed him because she didn't really understand their traditions. She didn't really buy into what they were doing. She tried to compromise and didn't really know or understand what she was doing with the sheep people or um, the horse lords. And so she
Mm-hmm.
ends up, killing her husband because she doesn't understand the sheep people's witches or what it was that she was really doing. And so once again, we have Danny walking into this culture and kind of going, well, I don't understand everything that's happening here, but here's what we're going to do now.
Mm-hmm. And of course, you did get the witch whose village y'all just freaking burnt down to heal him.
Yes.
But that's beside the point.
How could that go bad? And so then Danny goes down into the pits where she has sealed up her children and she has a "you're not my real mom" moment.
Yes. Her dragons are going through their terrible two slash teenage rebellion stage. They are like someone said on Twitter. They said these are their dragons. They call her a bitch in front of their friends, and then also they're like, "Say you're not my mom. You don't tell me what to do."
Yeah, no, those dragons definitely use her first name.
Yep, they use her first name.
Like, hey, Danny, make me a sandwich.
Yep. And then someone else comment though, you would think that the dragons got the belt for her.
Yeah, no, they call her by her first name. They don't say please or thank you. They don't have chores, and they
Mm-hmm.
steal money out of her purse. Like they do whatever they want, and she just goes along with it
Yep.
because they're bigger and stronger than her.
And this is the kind of we see in this because when they were, you see that Danny really did not do anything to kind of tame them
Yeah,
when they were little, and cute, and
yeah,
that to control them even better. She did not do anything like disciplinary wise or anything to train them. She just let them do whatever the hell they wanted. And of course, so when she locked them down in that dark room for weeks and
yeah.
went down to go say hi, they're like, bitch, get out.
Yeah, no. And I mean, all the most that she ever taught them was on this word, blow fire.
Exactly.
Like, you didn't teach them heal, you didn't teach them roll over. Like, of course, the dog does whatever it wants. When you got it as a puppy, you didn't teach it anything other
Exactly.
than how to go outside and how to heal. But guess what? It's big now and it doesn't like heal.
Mm-hmm.
And so she gets the "you're not my real mom," and then we go back to the north. Um, Mance and John have their final conversation where Mance says that all he wanted was the freedom to make his own choices, and then learns that he'll be burnt at the stake, which clearly rattles him because who wouldn't be rattled by burning at the stake? He still refuses to kneel. Melisandre gives her speech,
Mm-hmm.
and they send him up the pyre and light it up.
Mm-hmm. So basically, as of right now, she's scared shitless of her dragons.
Yeah.
So we're gonna see later this season either A, she tries to get them under control. Oh, and of course we can't forget there's only two dragons in that pit.
Yes.
The third one, Rhaego, who apparently is
Drogo.
also the biggest of the three, he's heading for Westeros.
Yes, he might be. Drogo's the one that got out. The black
I
one.
thought it was Rhaego.
Rhaego and Viserys.
Rhaegar.
Uh, Rhaegar and Viserion are in the pit. Drogo is the one that escaped. The largest one, who's also the black one.
Mhm.
Because the black dragon saw the chains coming and went, nope, I know this trick. I'm not taking this boat ride. I'm out. There's no free trip, guys. Run. They didn't listen. They didn't listen. And so, yeah. So Danny is short on dragons and quickly losing power. Mance is put up on the pyre, and before he burns too much, Jon Snow shoots him with an arrow through the heart, killing him.
An act of
Which,
mercy.
yes, which they've kind of talked about. There's going to be 4 character deaths this season. We can largely safely assume that Mance is the first one. I don't want to get too much into anything else because we could get into kind of spoilery territory, and they're not following the books anyway. So,
But from what we did see in the previews coming up,
yeah.
is that, well, one, Dorne is pissed at the Lannisters because this is their second child that has gotten killed because of the Lannister. First was the one who was married to Rhaegar Targaryen, who the Mountain killed her children, then raped and killed her.
Yep.
And then then of course the Mountain killed the Viper, aka Oberyn.
Yep.
So that's 2 children that have gotten killed by the Mountain because of the Lannisters.
Yes. And so the
Dorne,
next, go ahead.
And Dorne is, as we saw in the preview, Dorne sent something to the Lannisters basically saying, you do realize we got your daughter, right?
Yes, we have your kid and we're unhappy. The next episode is the House of Black and White, which we also catch in the previews of Arya walking up to the doors, one all black and one all white. The plot summary for it is Arya arrives in Bravos. Pod and Brienne run into trouble on the road. Cersei fears for her daughter's safety in Dorne as Ellaria Sand seeks revenge for Oberyn's death. And Stannis tempts Jon, and an advisor tempts Dany. Obviously, we saw Arya in Bravos. Pod and Brienne could run into all kinds of trouble on the road. Ellaria Sand is one of Oberyn's daughters, the Sand Snakes. I believe Ellaria is the oldest of them. No, wait. She's the paramour. I'm sorry. Ellaria mothered 5 of Oberyn Martell's 8 bastard daughters, the 3rd eldest Tien and the 4th youngest Elia, Obella, Doria, and Loreza. I'm sorry. So, no. Ellaria Sand is his paramour, not one of the Sand Snakes, his 8 bastard daughters, who he took in and raised. Unlike everyone else's bastards so far, for the most part, Oberyn and Ned are about the only 2 we really hear about who actually take in and personally raise their bastard children. Oberyn raised his 8 bastard daughters, the Sand Snakes, and they are all intensely loyal to him and also skilled fighters, those who are old enough to use weapons. And so,
and then it's like Oberyn said last year in Dorne, they do not treat bastard children the way they treat them in the rest of the 7 kingdoms.
Yes. And
because
so,
they say bastards they were made because of passion and love connections.
Yes.
That's why his daughters he raised his daughters, because there still is.
Yeah. And so Dorne is definitely a bit freer there. I feel like in the books it's cast a little bit more that it's a little more that Oberyn is a little unique. Not that bastards are necessarily as looked down on in Dorne, that they're still,
Mm-hmm.
It's not the same as being in the rest of the country, but
Mm-hmm.
that doesn't necessarily mean all of the lords take in all their bastard children. It's
Mm-hmm.
just kind of more accepted. They're like, oh, hey, yeah, you're so and so's bastard, like whatever.
No, they don't. Probably don't introduce them as, oh, this is Ned Stark's bastard.
Yeah. And so you're not bringing them to the parties as much as Oberyn necessarily does, but it's not the same mark of shame as the rest of the country kind of views it as. So, but yeah, it'll definitely be interesting also to see how Stannis tries to tempt Jon. Obviously, Jon is the closest thing to a legitimate heir left for the Stark clan. And if Stannis is king, much like with the Bastard of Bolton, Stannis has the power to legitimize anyone's bastard child.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Bolton obviously had the power to legitimize his son, along with, I believe, orders from Joffrey that caused him to be officially recognized. So I'm going to guess that part of how Stannis is going to tempt Jon is, hey, if you forget about these vows, join me. I can legitimize you as Ned Stark's heir,
Mm-hmm.
and the North is yours. So be interesting to see how that plays out. Be interesting to see which advisor tempts Dany. I feel like Dario's kind of the obvious one, but I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on in Marine right now, so be interested to see what actually is going down there.
Mm-hmm. It's going to be very, I'm like I was saying earlier, I'm very glad they kind of introduced everybody's main storylines this
Yeah,
season. The first episode. I know some people be like, "Oh, it's kind of boring." But you got to understand, it's a setup.
yeah,
You can't just go straight into the action. You got to have this. You have to have a proper introduction. Okay, this is what's been going on with such and such since this happened.
yeah. So yeah, and I think as setups go and episode ones go, like none of the episode ones have been that exciting. Like I was talking to someone else before about like the most exciting episode one I feel like was maybe season one, episode one, and that's only because Bran got pushed out a window at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Like aside from that, it was really slow, and it was just you see Bran go out the window and go, wait, what? Okay, now wait, and now you want to see episode two, but it's not like there was a whole lot of action in that one. Season two wasn't action packed. I mean, season four, you introduce Oberyn, he stabs a guy, but the rest of it is just Tyrion getting kicked in the nuts over and over again for marrying Sansa and trying to keep Shay as his prostitute on the side who he doesn't sleep with.
Mm-hmm. Still say she's the dumbest hoe in Westeros, but
No,
okay.
no, she's awful. She's just terrible.
Dumb. Matter of fact, it's not just her. It was also what's the girl who was Custer's daughter,
Gilly?
Gilly from who's with Sam.
Yes.
I honestly think some of these women like her and Shay, they're the dumbest people because we are told repeatedly, bitch is dangerous. You could get raped, killed, and a whole lot of bad stuff. That's why you need to leave. And then they'll look at you like, but why do we want to leave? Why should I leave? I'm like, you dumb
To
bitch.
be fair, Gilly is clearly inbred. Like all of Castor, like Castor is sleeping with his daughters, and so Gilly is at least a second generation daughter of Castor's, which means that her mother was probably his daughter, and her grandmother may have been his daughter. So there's a lot going on with her that she might have an excuse. Shay, I don't know what. She was a successful prostitute for a while and all of a sudden just went stupid.
Then, of course, she started sleeping with Daddy Lannister, so that helps.
Yeah. That was one change from the books versus the show. Because in the books, Shay's just a hoe. Like, she doesn't love Tyrion at all. It is abundantly clear to you as the reader that she's just using him. All she ever asks about is when she can get her money, and her jewels and her fine clothes back. It's fairly clear that she's sleeping with multiple other men. And as soon as she saw that, things were going sideways, she immediately jumped ship because she is a prostitute. She's really just trying to save her own skin and make as much money as she can, sleeping with whoever she has to.
Oh, she's golden, right?
Yes. And so in the books, Tyrion is just lovesick and he's obsessed with her and she's using him. And then he finally figures it out when she testifies against him and then sleeps with his dad. He finally puts it together, realizes she never cared about him, and kills her. I kind of prefer that to what they did, where they tried to do this whole no, they're really in love, they really care about each other, and then he kills her. Like, I feel like it's really tonally a bit more off as opposed to if she was just always using him. But I mean, I don't write the show. They clearly had a plan, so
Mm-hmm. Because I think that scene made it more like, especially the court scene from last when she first showed up. I think if she was just the hoe from the books,
yeah,
it wouldn't have been as powerful.
true.
Leading up to when Tyrion made his famous "I'm on trial for being a dwarf" speech.
Yeah.
Because if she was just the hoe, woman, like, oh, she's just doing what hoes do. But her actually being in love with Tyrion versus being, and him, of course, loving her, that made it even more shocking.
True. I guess for the show, that is kind of better. In the books, it's easier to show how much Tyrion cared for her and how little she cared for him, and that kind of being the final blow as he kind of breaks when he sees her on the stand. But yeah, I guess for a television audience, it makes more sense that her kind of being so hurt and feeling so betrayed that she turns on him does pack more of an emotional punch, even if I kind of like the first when I saw it a little more.
Yeah.
So makes sense. All right. We are just short of an hour, which I feel like is a good amount of time for discussing an hour-long show. We've almost gone as long as the episode did. Actually, we're probably at about the same length as the episode because it was only about, 50 minutes this time, I think.
50 minutes, try 40 something.
40 something? Wow. I thought it was closer to 50, but probably.
Because it started like 9:05 and it was over by 9:54.
Oof. Yeah, that's only about 49 minutes. So, yeah, they did short us probably usually about 5-6 minutes. I feel like they usually go around 54 or 55.
Mm-hmm. That's why everybody like, wait a minute, we got how much time?
They gave us a lot of good stuff. What were they going to do? Like, you gave us the setup for everything but Arya, unless you were going to try and just cram 5 minutes of Arya down our throats for no... out of nowhere, what are you going to do to pad that out? Especially ending with Jon shooting Mance through the heart. I can understand cutting that short and just saying, look, we'll take the rest in the next episode.
Mm-hmm. Let's say you got the details we gave you. You good.
Yes. So they shorted you, but we didn't because we gave you 50-something minutes. And so... just know, even when Game of Thrones betrays you, we won't unless there's more money in it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Susie. Around this time next week, after the House of Black and White.
Yep.
All right. Hopefully, Colin can join us next time.
AKA, I'm going to call it the Yin Yang House.
All right, well, we'll take on the Yin Yang House next time. Hopefully, Colin can join us. This has been Gotcha Thrones, 3/5 podcast. Follow us at the number 3/5 podcast, FIFS podcast on Twitter. Subscribe to the channel. We should be getting an RSS feed and all that kind of stuff out here soon for this and the main Three Fifths podcast. Thank you again, Cece, for taking out the time to do this with me, because I really wanted to recap these episodes, and I appreciate you being willing to do that.
No problem. I enjoy doing it.
All right. All right. We will see you. Well, I'll see everybody tomorrow for the Three Fifths podcast. Me and Cece will see you next week, hopefully joined by Colin.
Hopefully.
Peace.
Laters.